It's difficult to do anything with this except make jokes about it because it's so like, I guess it's so like obvious, you know, it's so obvious and straightforward and like it's happening. Wow. You probably have already heard about this.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it too.
A job
we'll
with
own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site, and
Can't wait to pay contractors $50 trillion to do this.
get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job.
I like how he said people of the area because he means Israelis, but he rather than say Israelis, he's keeping it ambiguous by saying like, oh, just, you know, folks around.
Do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years. I'm hopeful that this ceasefire could be the beginning of a larger and more enduring peace that will end the bloodshed and killing once and for all. With the same goal in mind, my administration has been moving quickly to restore trust in the alliance and rebuild American strength throughout the region. And we've really done that.
Gazan slave labor is a possibility. Oh yeah, sure, why not? Isn't the Saudi Arabian The Line project, aren't there already like 40,000 people dead? It's not exactly like out of the realm of possibility for the region. More than that? Yeah, how many people? It's like an enormous number of people. A documentary by UK broadcaster ITV alleged that 21,000 foreign workers had died and another 100,000 more had gone missing while working on Saudi Arabian mega projects, with migrant workers from India, Bangladesh, and Nepal being the main victims. But Saudi Arabia says that's not true, so I believe them.
A respected nation again. A lot's happened in the last couple of weeks. We are actually a very respected nation again. I ended the last administration's de facto arms embargo on over $1 billion in military assistance for Israel. And I'm also pleased to announce that this afternoon, the United States withdrew from the anti-Semitic UN Human Rights Council and ended all of the support for the UN Relief and Works Agency, which funneled money to Hamas. And
how do like the Nazis feel about this? Like all of the epic red-pilled paleocons who are like, thank God for Trump rebuilding glorious America, and meanwhile like no president has ever been as cucked to Israel as Trump, not even close. Like Biden was remarkably cucked to Israel, but he doesn't even come remotely close to. Okay, I skip ahead to this. Did you see the Trump pulling out Netanyahu's chair and pushing it in that everyone's talking about, because Trump never does gestures like this? So for him to like push a chair in like a service staff, the president of the United States, to push a chair. That's pretty insane, man. That's pretty insane. Like, this isn't like a general gesture. It's Donald Trump, the most selfish man on earth. And he's like, you know, acting like a service staff. The dick riding is crazy. Exactly. Anyway, it's a tiny little thing, but I stand by it. It's really, really bad. The goat really did have his ego broken? No kidding. Netanyahu doesn't even thank him. Yeah, no, why would he, you know? Netanyahu actually does have some control over Israel. Trump has none in America, so.
It was very disloyal to humanity. Today, I also took action to restore a maximum pressure policy on the Iranian regime, and we will once again enforce the most aggressive possible sanctions, drive Iranian oil exports to zero, and diminish the regime's capacity to fund terror throughout the region and throughout the world. We had no threat when I left office. Iran was not able to sell oil. Nobody was buying oil because I said, don't buy it. If you buy it, you're not doing any business with the United States. And Hamas was not being funded. Hezbollah was not being funded. Nobody was being funded. There would never have been an October 7th. 2 weeks ago, I once again designated the Houthis as a terrorist organization. They're trying to destroy world shipping lanes, and that's not going to happen. And over the weekend, I ordered airstrikes against senior ISIS leaders hiding in Somalia, and took them out. Here in America, we've begun the process of deporting foreign terrorists, jihadists, and Hamas sympathizers.
Okay, we're fully in the weave now. Yeah, so we're going to get directly involved in Gaza. So that'll be fun. As is always the case, like the whole reason this is being done is to further the interests of the MIC, get massive contracts, all the construction work that's going to be done, all the bomb defusal, all the work that's going to be done in the Gaza Strip. We paid Israel to drop the bombs. Now we pay Israel and Israeli companies to clean it all up. It all comes from our pocketbook. And there's not like it's not like the proletariat doesn't exist in Israel as well, but we obviously have a lot more money to throw around. Will the UN do anything about this? I'm sure the UN will be very upset about it. And, I hope they're contented with that. Apparently, the proposal is to get other states to come up with their solutions to it. I mean, Trump did just kind of fire this one off without much of a plan or warning. What do you mean? Oh, are they trying to walk it back? National Security Advisor Mike Waltz confirmed that Trump's proposal to take over Gaza is meant to pressure neighboring Arab nations and to come up with their own solution. That doesn't mean anything. What does that mean? The president of the United States giving a little foot massage to Netanyahu and saying, don't worry, America will come and clean everything up. That's meant to encourage Arab states to do something. I think what he means here is it's meant to prompt those Arab states into taking in ethnically cleansed Palestinians, because there are still like 1.5 million of them left over there, right? Being bounced around like tent camps in the region. So the real question is like, what are you going to do with the remaining Palestinian population? Yeah, that's definitely what they're talking about. White House appears to walk back Trump's shock Gaza plan. Trump had meant Palestinians should be temporarily relocated when he said the U.S. would take over the territory. Yeah, because the language of Trump implied complete ethnic cleansing or removal, which is, of course, what Netanyahu wants. But now people are saying like, no, they'll get to come back in. It doesn't matter. Their words are meaningless here. We understand what the intention is. I've seen people trying to say this is a means to negotiate a new Iranian nuclear deal. How? How does that, what possible connection could you, Donald Trump could slam his dick in a car door and people would be like, this is actually a move to pressure Canada into no longer allowing fentanyl into the United States. Like, it doesn't, okay, yeah. Enough with the 4D chess, memery. Not happening. Reused joke. It's true! Not really a joke. It's kind of like the nature of how this all works, How will you move 1.5 million people? Well, that's Israeli ingenuity. Through Israeli military engineering, there are now fewer Palestinians to displace, which makes the whole job a lot easier, Really remarkable stuff. It's been made very clear that the president of the United States needs to be involved in the rebuilding effort to ensure stability in the region for all people. However, that does not mean boots on the ground in Gaza. It does not mean American taxpayers will be funding this effort. Bullshit. Obviously bullshit. Like, yeah, obviously. Again, the only reason any of this is done is, like, for money. Well, for the Israelis, it's about the joy of slaughtering a different ethnic group. But for the broader interests at play here, it's about the money. This is somehow more bullshit than Mexico paying for the wall. Yeah, remember when Mexico was going to pay for the border wall? The big news is that he said he'd move 1.7 million people. If that's accurate, it means the death toll is like 500,000 people, which some have suggested. It does seem like Trump is mentally compromised enough that he is now just blurting out the stuff that he's getting told privately rather than blurting out the messaging they're meant to deliver to the public, Like him holding the chair in for Netanyahu, him going up here and just saying flat out like, yeah, we're going to go there, we're going to do it. To be fair, he always did that. That's true. This seems like a bit more so, though. The immediate walking back, not even from like neocons in the administration, but from people like in his loyal circle, kind of makes me think that like they took Trump to a back room and they were like, yeah, okay, so we're evil and it's a genocide, blah, 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 and we're going to do this all for money, mwahaha. And then he just went out there and repeated the points that he heard, rather than like dousing people in the euphemisms. Masterful gambit, sir. Now finish the damn video.
From our soil, just as we have people that are extremely evil, and we're sending them out of our country. They came from jails. They came from mental institutions back, and they're taking them back very gladly. Shined so brightly just 4 years ago. It was really a bright, beautiful light. We will restore calm and stability to the region, tranquility, and have great lives.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Thank you, Trump. Much appreciated. Thank you. Anyway, pretty wild.
There is no better source to start this hour than our own Fareed Zakaria on all of this, and he joins me now. And Fareed, obviously,
how you doing, man?
Just to give everyone, I was at the White House all day. To catch everyone up, what had happened is before Prime Minister Netanyahu even got there, Trump was suggesting that Palestinians should leave Gaza, that it's not livable. that it's going to take 10 to 15 years to rebuild because of all the destruction there from the Israeli strikes since October 7th, since this war has started. Then he repeated it again in the Oval Office with Netanyahu seated by his side. And then he came out at that press conference, and that is when he made the news on his own without being asked by a reporter about the U.S. taking over the Gaza Strip. Obviously, an extraordinary statement from an American president. What are your takeaways, Fareed?
Well, it's breathtaking, and one doesn't really know where to begin. You asked the central question, Caitlin, which is, where would these people go? There are 2 million Palestinians in Gaza who have lived through several wars, several incredibly intense bouts of violence with Israel because they want to live on their land. As you say, the neighboring countries, Egypt and Jordan, have both categorically and repeatedly said that they're not going to take people in. So it's not entirely clear how this happens.
Yeah, it really does seem like the only, unless an Arab country buckles and takes in the Palestinian refugees, it seems like the Palestinians are just going to have to be like a slave caste in the Gaza Strip. You know, they're going to be like working the golf course of Mar-a-Lago 2. Do you see that tweet? Nancy Mace said, let's turn the Gaza Strip into Mar-a-Lago. I appreciate when they're straightforward. I dislike the dishonesty more than I dislike the evil plus the dishonesty, I guess. Or I should say, like, if they're going to be evil, I'd rather they be honest about it. Oh, sorry, I was distracted by a beautiful kitten running around at high speeds.
The United States would have to invade Gaza, would have to expel Hamas, would have to conduct counterinsurgency operations against an insurgency there that would exist, would also have to persuade Egypt and Jordan to take these refugees.
She just jumped on the desk.
And one has to point out, outside of all the geopolitical issues that raises, this is a president.
Oh, because the food is up here. Vermin, why is the food up here?
Focus on America first.
Set me up.
He didn't want us engaging in any grand global projects. Well, I mean, this is another war in the Middle East, and the last war in the Middle East we took part in.
Oh, sorry, Ruben was trying to eat it.
Ended up stretching out much longer, was much more complicated, and cost about $2 trillion. So,
again, like, I really wish people would talk about where that money went when they talk about how much the Iraq war cost, because everything becomes so clear when you realize, like, I think that a lot of people think when they hear that, oh, the Iraq war cost like so-and-so $1 trillion a year. Okay, so that's like the cost of paying the soldiers, the wages, and like building guns and like fueling tanks and like building ammunition and stuff. And it's like, well, part of it, yeah, but no, like a huge amount of that money is built on like the public-private partnership bullshit. It's contracts. Yeah, it's Halliburton getting $500 per hamburger.
It seems very unlikely that this can go smoothly. You can imagine American power forcing the Egyptians to do something, forcing the Jordanians to do something. But you're going to have to put military on the ground to get Hamas to cede power, to get the Palestinians to move, to secure that area. And that is another military intervention in the Middle East. And I thought President Trump ran in 2016 explaining that that was precisely why he was running. He wanted to stop America's senseless adventures in the Middle East.
What it means for the ceasefire deal that is in place right now. I mean, if you're Hamas, which is obviously the other party of this agreement, and they see the U.S. president saying, we're going to take over the Gaza Strip, does this mean the ceasefire deal still holds, or that, I mean, there are still hostages being held by Hamas there?
How many hostages are left at this point? Jesus Christ. Lamau, that question, yeah. Every day it gets worse. It's all so protracted, you know? Nothing can ever happen quickly because if it happens quickly, you can't milk as much money out of it as possible. We'll see what actually ends up happening. But yeah. Okay, wait, I have some ending thoughts on this because it's pretty straightforward. You don't need much analysis. It's pretty straightforward. For one, if you're still talking about Muslims in Dearborn, Michigan, your brain is cooked and you are not actually any kind of ally to people suffering under this presidency. What the f*** are you talking about? Me peering into an alternate timeline where every Muslim in Dearborn, Michigan voted for Kamala Harris and it's November 5th, Trump victory. Like, shut the f*** up. Oh my God. Wow, people were stupid? That's crazy. You are too. You're not special. Like, yeah, I'm sure Jill Stein voters feel right now. No, 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 you're doing the thing I'm talking about, Mr. History. No one cares. It's not relevant at all, you know? Don't become one of those people who gripes. You're gonna do like the your version of Brianna Joy Gray talking about force the vote like 5 years after it was a possibility, you know? I mean, you gotta walk past it, past a point. There's also going to be a lot of people who are like super anti-Semitic about how obviously cucked Trump is to Israel. You have to remember, okay? America and Israel are functionally the same country. They're run by the same corporations. The interests that dictate what happens in Israel are largely the same that dictate what happened over here. That's just the colonial project. Like you're acting like the British Raj controls the state of England or something. You know what I mean? You've got it mixed up. Israel is the aggressive hotspot that allows the powers that be to get billions and billions and billions of dollars in taxpayer investment in their projects. You campaign for both Biden and Harris for the better part of 4 years. What the? This place looked like I'm really important Twitch for a while. Shut it, bro. What the hell are you talking about? What's the relevance of this to what I said? You know what? You're not even operating on the level, okay? You're still not potty trained enough for this conversation. You'll come back. You'll work it out. It's fine. Sometimes it's just a maturity thing. Liberal. I don't even know what that shit is. Who even knows? Someone said Jill Stein would have fixed this. True. Ooh, she rustling. If only we elected RFK. That is true. That might have been the timeline, right? Except, wait, he's a huge Zionist. Basically, like, everyone who can be bribed is a Zionist because there is an infinite amount of money behind the Zionist project. Like, it's not Israeli money. It's AIPAC money and money associated with AIPAC. And that just basically means, like, the wealthy of conservative people and wealthy people, which there's a big overlap between. It's like all the money in the world, you know? If you can be bribed, you're on their team. Why is Israel so important to these corporations? Because the MIC needs a like hotspot with constant, like an excuse to constantly invest in military or contracting projects. Look what's happening right now with Trump. He's like, somebody's going to need to go clean the rubble and defuse the explosive bombs. This is military contracting. Again, it's happening again. Literally, like, we pay Israel to bomb the shit out of the Gaza Strip, and now we're going to dump more money into like the same 5 corporations or whatever that are going to accept massive no-bid government contracts, billions and billions of dollars to clean it up. It's not MIC profit that Congress is riddled with Zionist freaks on both sides? Yeah, because of MIC profit. You think that, like, it's a coincidence that, like, all the powerful and wealthy people in this country are super, super concerned about, what, the safety of Jewish people? Meanwhile, they all pal around with Nazis? No, I don't think so. No other explanation makes sense. If it's like a genuine ideologically informed Zionism, then how are so many of them, like, okay with buddying up with Nazis? What are you up to? She's up to something. No, it's money. This isn't the first time this has happened. The same thing happened with the East India Trading Company or with the British Raj. You have corporations that are responsible for like a massive amount of money cycling around, investment. They bring back resources, or they're like vessels for investment. And because they end up getting so powerful, they end up having a bunch of sway over like the domestic nation as well, not because of any sincere interest in what the well-being of India or whatever, but because that's where the money is, you know? In a world where like so much money is caught up in speculation and military contracting, obviously that shit's going to be like the premier vessel for you know, for making a buck. The East India Trading Company was functionally a military. The MIC goes back a long way. Wouldn't they benefit off a semi-healthy rich population for more profit? I mean, it doesn't really matter. That's not what they want to do. The MIC wouldn't. That's not how they make their money. Why would Trump want the Palestinians to clean the bombs? They're not going to be cleaning them.